ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. It's a regular school board meeting, Slate Valley. Let's first rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. So first looking for a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, just a few changes under finance. There will be obviously warrants that we have to approve. That's all I have. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Nothing else? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next looking for a motion to approve the minutes from January 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any corrections, discussion on those minutes? All right, hearing nothing. All those in favor of approving those minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next we have some students here tonight. Ben, I'll let you do some introductions.
Thank you. So we have Miss Gina Chang here. She's our new teacher with 3D digital arts and fashion. And she has a high school student here, Sam, and a middle school student here, Brady, to kind of talk about what they've been doing this year. And I will turn it right over to Gina.
Thank you. So we have a little presentation because we want to show some work that the students have been doing. So my name is Gina Chang. It's spelled a little strange. It's J-I-N-A, but it's pronounced Gina. This is my email address. I just want to tell you guys a little bit about my background. I come from the design world. So my first ever job after graduating from Parsons School of Design was designing outerwears for celebrities, like Sarah Parker, Amanda Bynes, and Venus Williams. And then I went into kids wear. I designed for Paul Frank, Calvin Klein, outerwear for Calvin Klein, Kenneth Cole, Izod, and my last recent position was designing the boys and girls line for Puma. So these are some of my work, my digital work. These are my Puma, my Paul Frank. And these are called technical packages where I would get approved by my clients to go ahead and get it actually produced. I do print design as well. And I help with, my friends are still in the industry. So when they need help, I always help with the graphic design work, the fashion design work. So it is a craft that I keep honing. And these are some of the stuff that I did for a recent campaign called Shoe Pants. And I also dabble in product design as well. So I come from the design world and I love teaching, and that is why I am here. And I have two wonderful students who would like to come up and talk to you about what they've learned in class. But before, I was going to do the progression of classes, weren't I? Yep. Okay, so I teach high school and middle school. I teach 7th graders and I teach 8th graders, and I have them for a quarter each. And in that quarter, I teach them the foundations of graphic design in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. We have a lab that is very professional, right? So I'm going the professional route where if they go to college for this, they'll be right on target. And if people don't even want to go to college, that's okay, because there are so many avenues out there. If you want to be an artist, there are plenty of ways, and I'm here to help our students find that way. All right, and Brady, if you would like to come up here.
Hi, my name is Brady Nicholson, and these are some of my projects I did. This one was towards the beginning of the year. It was a basic learning tool of trying to how to do the lines shapes and like overlay. And then I kind of themed mine as a John Deere, and which I enjoyed this project a lot. It was really good. And then this one, it says DTP shipping, so it was a client, so you would get a client and they would send a request and then you would have to make a logo for them. And they were out of Texas and they wanted to expand their company statewide. So I went with the basic idea of like a rough outline of the United States and like 3 basic colors: black, a little bit of a light blue, and a dark blue. And then on this one, we were doing typography, and I made the wood. I took a picture, I overlaid it with the words and everything. So all of this says panda since it's part of the panda, and then where the panda is laying on the wood, it all says wood.
Neat.
So Binks, they cannot be here today, but is it okay if I talk about their art? All right. So this is a logo that they did for themselves. Basically, I told them, who are you? What are you? We're gonna make a logo that represents you. So they basically have to come up with adjectives that they, consider themselves, and their likes and their interests. And they compiled all of the imageries together, and they drew it out by hand, and then we traced it out in Adobe Illustrator, and we got something like that. And this is done on Photoshop. Basically, it's a whimsical self-portrait. So if you see, Banks is right here. Banks is sitting on a stack of books on a desk, right, with trees and waterfalls, things that can't happen in real life, right? So we're exploring the psyche of their artwork right now. We had such a good time doing that. So, and then everyone had to make the heart poster, right? So the heart could be any movie. It can be a romance. It can be a thriller. It can be whatever. And Banks picked a thriller, right? And basically added the elements of a movie poster. What will grab the person's attention? And we basically worked with layout, worked with color, worked with theme. We had a good time with this one too. So. And these are other student work examples. You can just go ahead and scroll. Sure. They're not here to talk about it, but I just wanted to show you guys.
Continuing through this part, do you just scroll? Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then Sam's here to talk about his art.
Hi, I'm Sam McClure. I was in the 3D design class, and I used Tinkercad to make a V. And this is what it came out like in the program. It was a very interesting time. That's how it came printed out. I actually got to use wax to paint it in a sense, but there's not a picture because it was after. It was really fun.
Sorry.
It was really fun to be part of the class. I learned a lot more than I would have expected because I had previously worked with some 3D design, but it was only in Tinkercad, but we also used a lot of other resources such as like VR and Scope 3D.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very enjoyable.
Very good.
And then we have 2 other students with 3D. You can just show the work. This is by Frankie. And then Dominic. ready.
Does anyone have any questions? Very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was great.
Oh, that was great.
All right.
Just add that, Gina is new to us. We didn't have digital arts of any sort, except for what could be done by a tech integrationist or a media, librarian, what it used to be called, library media specialist. So it's wonderful that we had this opportunity, and we were fortunate that with Walter, myself, and Chris and Cheryl, we could identify resources through the ESSER funds that allowed us to outfit the space. And so they have 25.
23 or 24 Mac desktops, and we just added 3 more laptops because she hopes to maybe be able to do some out in the community projects over time with kids.
And I think the cost of that was probably in excess of $40,000 to $50,000. So It was really an opportunity that we saw would hopefully benefit students and provide something that we didn't have in our current programming. So.
Nice.
Casey has a follow-up, and I should have asked her, but so everything she's doing, it kind of stays on screen. I mean, I see the 3D printed objects. Is there any more like equipment in there where we can convert what's on screen to actual tangible things or textiles or arts or?
So a couple of 3D printers, few different models. One model that's the more traditional melting ABS or PL filament, which actually layers. Rodney Batchelet, one of the tech integrationists, has worked with her a lot, and he's experimented with resin printers. So it's essentially 3D printing, except was actually a tub of resin that's dropped and then it hardens with light. They also played a little bit with glow forges, which are 3D laser cutters a little bit. Those right now have been moved over to some of the elementary schools for some projects that were happening, but as need arises, can come back for some of those kind of projects in a Cricut or some vinyl cutting, those kind of things.
We've done some posters.
Yep.
Because some advertisements or things like that could come out. But in terms of fashion, taking anything that's being designed in clothing, we probably would coordinate with, we have Jen Clement who teaches a class where we could, take those designs and actually have students make clothing.
We are exploring that for next year, if we can have some sort of joint teaching opportunity between Jen and Gina to do something exactly.
Nice.
I was just saying, I don't know if that we didn't have Gina or the program prior to this year, and that's what I was saying.
Any other questions or comments? All right, next we'll move on to public comment, and I'll first start with our online audience. If there's anyone attending the meeting online who has a public comment, please unmute and identify yourself. And I'm not seeing anyone. So next I'll turn in person. Is there anyone here tonight? Public comments? If so. Holly, go ahead.
That's me. My name's Holly Kretzer. I've got kids in the district. Try to be sort of respectful of what you're all doing, as I appreciate what you're doing, and the children, are thriving. So, thank you. But I wanted to just address something that's come to my attention recently. So I know Kim Prohoda is here, and I don't know if there are any other elementary school principals here, but it's come to my attention that we are, let me just ask a question. Are you the only principal here?
No, we're all
You're all here.
So, roughly how many assemblies do you have a year at the elementary school? 1 a month, right? You all have 1 a month at least? We do.
She has a comment. She'll get to it.
Regularly though. So I can only speak to my experience at Castleton, but my understanding is that the assemblies are to celebrate achievements, right? Like some of the achievements that I have sat through are things like, obviously the very, well-earned academics, right? But some of the other ones range from, inane and trivial to sort of, more profound accomplishments of a particular child. But I've heard things like, ready to learn, which is sort of ambiguous, but okay. And then, not getting a turn on the swing, which is unfortunate, or, sitting nicely next to someone on the bus or things like that. And so I recognize that we want to acknowledge individual students' achievements based on what their abilities are. But when you think about once a month for every year for the kids, or generally, it feels like there's a lot of time spent celebrating little things. And it's come to my attention that now that we have 7 through 12 in one school, the 6th graders will not be getting a graduation ceremony. So you're nodding like that's accurate. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So I would very much like someone to explain to me how you can have a monthly assembly or a regular assembly in which we are giving students awards and accolades for simple little things like washing their hands or throwing a piece of paper in the garbage. But we are going to go allow our children who have been in your schools for 7 years to hit a major milestone event for themselves as a sign of maturity, a life-changing event for them. We are going to leave it go unacknowledged. I cannot for the life of me understand how that seems like a reasonable choice as the principals of elementary schools. Because what looks good on paper in academic worlds does not look good in the aesthetics of the eyes of a child who has spent 7 years in your building and been given notification and all sorts of accolades for things like showing up to band on time. But now that they're about to graduate out of a school and it is a major milestone for them, none of you are going to acknowledge it. Please explain that to me.
So-
Because I am not the
I
only
got it.
parent who feels this way.
Okay.
So I would like their.
No, I know, but I think Tim had something to say.
And I would just advise the principals, this is a public comment. You're not asked to respond right now impromptu, but I think what Ms. Kretzer is asking is that you reconsider and, per previous policy as it relates to public comment. Holly, I can say that the appropriate parties will follow up with you and address the concerns that you've expressed tonight. So we're not going to get into a back and forth discussion with the principals at this moment, but your concerns will be addressed by the appropriate person. Okay?
So I'm not getting an answer.
Not in this forum. You will get your answer, and I think the principals have heard your concerns, and someone will follow back up with you, whether it's Kim Prohoda because you're a Castleton resident, or if it's Brooke, the superintendent. I think the principals certainly would want maybe just a little time to digest what you've expressed tonight. Is that fair to say, principals? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Holly. Is there anyone else from the public who has a comment tonight? I don't think I see anyone. Okay, we will move on then in the board meeting to correspondence. I have not received any correspondence. Brooke, anything on your end?
No.
Okay. Central office report, which was included in our packet, put together by administrators. Does anyone have any questions for the administrators on the central office report? Quite lengthy one, I might add.
I just want to make a comment about the Casey's, I believe it was Casey's additional, instruction assessment. So I was happy to read through the responses. I was excited to see that they're reinforcing the good old fashioned values of taking notes, asking for help. They recommend studying and doing your work. I thought that was fabulous.
I did make certain.
Second that.
I shared it with middle school teachers today. Often you don't know if the message is heard, but when asked to respond, how could you give some advice to future participants? You get that the message has been heard. Maybe it's not always followed, but it does sink in to a degree. So yeah, I thought that was wonderful, that even if it doesn't feel like in the moment anyone is listening, if they were to give advice to someone else, they'd say, this is what you would want to do.
I do have a follow-up question. So how are you going to get that out to a wider audience? Because there's a lot of parents who would like to say, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, can we get the students, like,
So it was
testimonies on-
anonymous
Yep.
and I didn't know where it was going. I just said, hey, I'm this guy that you might see occasionally. If you were to give advice to future participants in this programming, because there was also students that have taken college courses, like what would you give them for advice? So I think they almost felt like they were able to help someone. You don't feel like you would succumb to any of the things that I had done. So, I mean, it can be shared beyond that. It doesn't have any names on it. I guess if you think of a forum that you think it should go on, I can get it there. But thanks for recognizing it in there.
I also had a question too about, you referenced the new Cognia statewide assessment, that it's changing from, that's the new versus the old. What are the main differences between the old versus the new assessment?
What we know, and we don't know a ton,
Great question.
is that there's not a huge difference, we don't think. But as Patty would know as an administrator in another district, there's not a lot that's been shared. We've attended some trainings. And so we've seen like test questions don't look that very different from what we had previously. Walter, Chris, probably we had 6 or 8 folks attending across our district. We know that the window in which we administer the test is much shorter than it has been in the past.
And later.
And later, it doesn't start till April. Typically, we have March as part of that assessment window. We also know that students, when they start a test, can pause, use the restroom, or you could have some more time to complete the test. They've shrunk that amount of time, so you really have to, when you start an assessment, work to get it completed in a smaller amount of time. Am I missing anything? That's about all we know. We don't entirely know.
You're supposed to have access to the practice test by mid-February.
Practice tests are live.
They're live.
They're live
they're ready.
now.
Yep.
Yep, and the questions don't look that much different than what we experienced before. It may have been a shift of a contract ending, sunsetting, and then starting a new one. When we jumped on, a Pearson representative was there kind of doing the training, so you kind of got the, oh wow,
Yeah.
big business is kind of coming at this thing as opposed to SBAC.
And I don't think we're going to be terribly surprised by the type of content or anything included, because the group that formed it used to be Measured Progress, who was the kneecap provider for
Yeah.
10 plus years in the state of Vermont.
Which is what we had before SBAC.
And Casey, 9th grade's not computer adaptive, correct?
Good point. Yeah, for some reason they said it doesn't happen this year, but it's going to happen next year. Everything else is computer adaptive. So that 9th grade experience, I'm not certain why they couldn't get that underway, but
Computer based, just not adaptive.
Yep. Right. Good point. Yep.
So computer adaptive means you would answer questions and they would base the next set of questions on how you answered those questions. So therefore, it's like the old fashioned, now you get quite a set of number of questions, you answer those, end of story.
It was the caveat always being that, like the SBAC and stuff is always advertised as computer adaptive, but it's
Correct.
adaptive was in a
It
band.
only goes to
It's not as though you're
Right.
really going to push it 3 grade levels above or 3 grade levels below.
Right.
Adaptive was in a band of
Gotcha.
content.
Gotcha.
Same grades, like same
Yep.
same grades get the assessment as have in the past.
Which is 3.
3 through 9
is ELA and math.
math, and then 11th grade
Graded
Science picks up
Grade.
5, 8, and 11.
5, 8,
8,
11.
11. Okay.
I put that in my board report.
No, Chris did.
Phew.
But thank
I don't
goodness
know
for
enough
Walter,
about
because he
it.
attended the meeting and.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
That's right. Chris
I've
pulled
I've
it
been
in
trying to
his
keep those.
because he was
I
talking
don't know
about
much about it.
computers. So he put it in.
Yeah. Don't ask me a question. I don't know anything
I
about
mean, I
it.
think the general impression we're having going into it is that we've done the SBAC for a number of years. I don't think we're expecting any big changes. It's the same general concept and
Right.
general parameters of how the testing and everything works.
Yep.
And the keyboards, all that
Yep.
Yeah.
seems to be the same as what it was
The
before.
accommodation.
So kids don't need to relearn all that like they did the last transition,
Right.
so.
Correct.
Right. Good point.
Excellent. Thank you. Then I do have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
For Chris. The free appropriate public education, how many of our students in our district qualify for that?
For IEPs. So right now we have about 230 students on IEPs.
230. And then, so under the FAPE, Do students have the ability to go to cross districts to other schools, like as free education?
So we have in-district school choice for our elementary students, as well as all high school students having access to school choice throughout Vermont. So elementary students in our district have elementary school choice within our district.
Okay.
In terms of seeking a free appropriate public education for a student who might be on an IEP, we would first look at the continuum of supports that are available in our district. If we couldn't meet their needs within our district, then we may have to look at tuitioning the students to tuitioning a student to another program that may have like a higher level of care, different services, a different milieu, if you will. So that's how that works. We look at the continuum and whether or not their needs can be met within the district. And many of the programs that we operate in our district are district-wide programs. So, for example, we have a couple of alternative programs at Castleton Elementary School. The students that participate in those programs come from all of the elementary schools in our district.
Now, do we get many students from outside of our district?
No, because we are not operating those programs as tuition programs. Because the resources are limited, we have more than enough of our own students who need that level of support. And we usually have students that might be sort of working their way through the process in the wings, ready to come in as we're looking at students being ready to transition out. So we don't really have the capacity to take in folks from other districts.
Are there any conversations about, among other districts, like pooling together to create a school?
Yeah. That conversation, I think, has been happening for a couple of decades now, and we've done some different investigations. We've actually had some common programs in the past. One of the challenges became either you end up with one organization has to sort of own the costs and manage it. And if you don't have the exact number of students predictable from year to year, then that entity that owns it might do really well or might do very poorly in terms of you have a set of fixed costs, if you will, for X number of students. If you don't have that number of students, then that cost gets shared between a lower number of students, which makes it more costly. But we run into the same issues as a region in trying to do things. The travel times become too long for students, or we end up with too many students that are in need. So we would only be able to take a couple of students from this district, a couple of students from that district, and then still have this overflow need. As a result, many districts have been developing their own programs.
Okay. Has our district discussed starting its own?
Yep, we have several alternative programs that we have operating right now in the district at the elementary, the middle, and the high school level.
Now, is there ever a conversation about having a different, like a separate building? I mean, is there any pros to doing something like that? Where there may be some students that may be better off just not dealing with those transitions maybe, or?
I think that that's always a discussion in terms of different options for our students or how we utilize space, advantages and disadvantages of both. Advantages, of having students within, sort of a school within a school is opportunities for inclusion and opportunities for interaction with other students, similar with similarities or differences, which is really meaningful. So I think that we also look at the space issue, right? Transportation can be a barrier for a lot of students as well. So pros and cons, but yes, we have had those conversations as we've looked at spaces or empty buildings or, resources in town. We do rent an off-site space. We have for probably about 15 years now that's located in the community of Fairhaven on Dutton Avenue. We rent half of a duplex there and we use that for off-site programming of individual students. We use it for tutoring. We use it for life skills programming. So we have a lot of different options and we're readjusting them all the time because the needs of students are certainly evolving and changing.
Yeah, sure. All right, well, thank you. Sorry to throw that at you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
All right, we're still within the central office report. Are there any other questions? All right, we will move on then to contracts and resignations. Yeah, Julie, can you sign that
Yeah, let me see the updated one.
contract resignation gal?
Right here. All right. So let's do the resignation first. the resignation, everybody received today. It was like the third email, if everybody can find it.
We have 3 resignations.
Right, but there's one there's another one that's written in the first one? The first set? Yes, there is. You're right.
There's 1 retirement and 3 resignations.
Yep. We gotta find them all though, because they're spread out throughout our attachments.
Oh, well, I've got
They're in
the,
one.
What?
They're in one.
Here.
Oh, no, this is in one, but the
Yeah.
actual letters are
Oh,
spread out
yeah.
between 3 different.
oh, yeah.
The retirement letter.
Correct, and I thought, don't we want to look at the letters or just read the paper? Don't we usually read the letters or not?
No.
No?
No.
All right. Then I will not. Everybody read the letter. I will go to the one pager. All right. So first, we have retirement for the 23-24 school year is Dale Martin, special education teacher. I make a motion to accept the retirement. Is that what you're supposed to do, or you just state it? Yeah, accept it.
Second. And just a comment, Dale, of the list is the retirement, so she's been with the district for quite some time. We
Mhm.
certainly want to thank her for her services and wish her well in her retirement. Absent other comments, all those in favor of approving the motion of retirement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
All right, there are 3 resignations for the 23-24 school year. Molly Durling, 6th grade teacher, Aaron Mangine, speech language pathologist, and Kate Leith, assistant principal.
Second.
and just to confirm, those are all at the end of the school year, June 2023?
Yep, for the 23-24 school year.
Any questions, comments on the resignations? Hearing none, all those in.
I got one, just since she's here, I'm sorry to hear Kate Lee's leaving.
I appreciate it. I just want to thank everyone for their support.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All those in favor of accepting the resignations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Alrighty, so moving on now to the Finance Committee, which met prior. We were the reason this meeting started late. I'll hand it over to Glenn.
Okay, so yes, we met prior to this meeting. Little housekeeping. The Finance Committee approved the non-union fringe benefit package.
Like, the full board would need to make a motion on that, Glenn.
Okay, and so I believe that was in everybody's packet. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the non-union fringe benefit package as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions on that fringe benefit package? All right, hearing nothing, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Okay, we also discussed the food service RFP. And we presently are under contract with the Abbey Group. The food service contract went out to bid in 2020 for 1 year with 4 one-year renewals. As everybody can guess, the price of food, price of labor have gone up drastically. The Abbey Group has notified Cheryl that they can no longer honor the prices that they had agreed to back in 2021. And to rectify this, Cheryl had conversations with the Abbey Group and with the Agency of Education. We have to go back out to bid now and see what comes forward. So this is kind of an FYI. This is in the process, and when we get further down the road and we've got bids, it will come back to the board to be acted on. I think everybody's kind of aware that it's been in the grocery store lately. You don't get much food for a lot of money. We went over a couple of other things. pertaining, just kind of cleaning up a few little details with a presentation on the budget. And so that is, I believe, is available online. And that will be presented at our annual meeting in 2 weeks. And then, so finally here, we have to pay some bills. So I would make a motion that we pay invoices in the amount of $2,734,743.64.
Second?
Any questions or discussions on those? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay,
I would make a motion that we pay invoices out of the capital reserve fund of $39,165.15.
Second?
any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve food service bills in the amount of $61,527.93.
Second?
Any questions on food service? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve grant invoices in the amount of $126,166.49.
Second?
Any questions or discussion on grants? Hearing nothing, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Make a motion to pay invoices on the high school student activity account of $7,701.15.
Second?
Any questions on high school student activity? Hearing nothing, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to approve invoices under the elementary student activity accounts of $3,641.84.
Second?
Any questions on that one? All right, hearing nothing, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You've paid our bills.
And we will see.
Already paid, I'm sure, but
We will see everybody on just to discuss finances on the 27th of February.
and that's in the band room at what time, Brooke?
6:30.
Okay. And just to clarify on that, so you're going to open the meeting, and the first course of business is to elect a moderator, and anyone attending the meeting from the public or any member of the school board can make a nomination.
Yeah, but I think, Tim, you actually open the meeting. I don't think I do.
I open the meeting. Okay, so I
Yeah,
open.
because we don't have a moderator right at this point. I mean, this is the first time we've ever not had a moderator elected. So you're gonna have to elect one for that night. And then
Yes.
you're gonna also have to do an election for one for, next year. So you really have 2 elections.
Okay, then we should talk about that before the meetings. I didn't realize there was a twofer on that
Yeah,
one.
because there was no moderator elected last year at the annual meeting or on the ballot.
Okay. All right.
So will you actually be opening the meeting to a nomination for someone to be moderator for that event, and then that moderator will also hold an election for another moderator. I have it written down somewhere. I will get it to you.
Okay. All right. Anyways, 2 weeks from tonight, be there.
We'll be
There, be square. It's gonna be a wild show. All right. So that was finance. We'll move on from finance. And next on the agenda is, we just talked about annual meeting prep and then the annual reports. And I believe perhaps Brooke or Casey, maybe we were going to talk about the annual reports.
Well, Well, Casey and I and the rest of the central office team were talking, and we didn't know if it would be a good thing to kind of run through it here at the board meeting so that everybody had a chance to really ask questions and understand what was included in the annual report. I don't have to run through every single thing, but I don't know if that would be beneficial to you all or not.
Is it ready to go up on screen, or
Can be momentarily.
why don't you do that?
Yeah.
So this is just an exercise to make sure that we're all informed. We know what's in there.
Yeah. So obviously,
I was just going to say, because as we went to the coffee and conversations and traveled around, it was our talking piece. So then I wondered if there's a bunch of them floating around out there and someone came to you and said, geez, I read this on this page. You might not know the exact answer, but would it be beneficial to highlight a few things so that you felt like...
so I mean, I would really start with page 9, which is at least page 9 of my copy is the demographics. So this is the current enrollment, free and reduced lunch students, and then enrollment by school. So these are questions we frequently get asked. So I think I don't know if folks have questions around this page. All right.
Keep rolling, Brooke. We'll stop you.
Okay. All right. So page 11 also has the breakdown of our professional staff and the education levels of the staff, teaching experience, and what we've seen over the years is we have our teaching, our faculty is newer to the profession than what we've had previously. So that's certainly something to point out. The salary schedule, the teacher's salary schedule is included in this document. In addition, you have the board chair's report, you have a report from me, and all of the principals, which you'll see throughout in a little bit, they also have reports that focus on points applied and the physical plant. You also have the budget projections and breakdown by expenditure accounts, and the proposed, and then the overview of the proposed budget. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on any of that. We're required to put in there our 3-year comparison. So you will see that on page 17. Also the common level of appraisal and the equalized tax rate. And as you all know, our tax rate has been going down in this district for the last handful of years. So even though our expenditure budget is up in comparison to last year, our tax rate is a decrease. So that's important to point out.
Hey, Brooke, you mentioned requirement. So I guess who's the intended audience of this report? And it is required that we file something of this nature and submit it to whom?
So by statute, we're required to have certain pieces in our annual report. One is that 3 prior years comparison on page 17. So there are certain things that we have to have in an annual report that's available to the community annually. So this is one of those pages.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then if you notice, what else do we have? We have the VSAC survey on page 21, where what our students' plans are for after college, or not after college, after high school. So And then the principals reports, again, have school climate, community engagement, curriculum and professional development, physical plant, and then points of pride. So celebrations for those individual schools, and they're all structured in the same format. And there's certainly a lot to celebrate within those. So if you have not had a chance to read them, I would highly encourage you to do so. I don't know if anyone has questions now.
I got a question, then. What do we have made up to hand out to the public?
You
Hear that
can, these are available for the public, and we've been handing those out, but we also have, there is a flyer that should be being mailed home, I think, this week.
Yeah,
we got it.
that.
We got it.
I was worrying about the annual report per se.
At the
Oh.
meeting. It should be available at the meeting.
They're available at the meeting. They're available throughout town. Lisa's dropped them off at places where we've had coffee and conversations. They're available at the schools. It's online. You can have one mailed to your home. If you call the central office, we're happy to mail one. So pretty widely available throughout town. We're going to be doing some pop-up events at the dump and at Shaw's, and we'll certainly, and maybe some of the laundromats. So we'll certainly have them available to folks there as well.
Are you through you're done you've gone through the document? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good unless people have questions.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or discussion points on the annual report? All right, thank you, Brooke. All right, so next, job description, Director of Finance. So I guess, Cheryl, my first question for you is, you're looking for us to, you've updated some of the job descriptions, or I think all of the job descriptions really.
Kind of went through the business office. There were few things that shifted around. Some needed no changes at all. Some needed a few things changed. So we just went through them all and resent them. And so they'll all be noted as updated and posted.
Okay. So you need board action to approve all those updated job descriptions?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, like, there's some of them, there were no changes, but you can.
So
note
the
them.
ones that we would want updated are Director of Finance, Payroll Specialist, HR Specialist, Finance Specialist, and Accounts Payable Specialist.
The only one is the assistant director, because that was done recently, most recently.
All right, so I count 5.
Mhm.
Director of Finance, and then HR, Payroll, Finance, and AP Specialists.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to be looking for a motion to approve those updated job descriptions.
So moved.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Cheryl about any of those job descriptions?
They're all filled, right?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
Are you looking for a job?
Thankfully,
Double, we can employ you. You have enough
I'm
work.
with- Sometimes we get those job descriptions, and my first question is, it must be a vacancy. That's not necessarily.
No, it's just, we have recently had a few changes, had a number of changes. And so when those changes occur, I always look at an opportunity to kind of shift some things around. And it takes a little while to see if that change sticks. I don't always know for sure if how I think I can change things around, if it really works in the end. And things seem to be settled at the moment, so it's a good time to get those updated.
All right, if there's no other questions, then all those in favor of approving those updated job descriptions within the business office, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? And on a separate note, Cheryl, I just want to thank you for all your hard work. And it was brought to my attention that you were recently, You got your recertification through VASBO to be the school business, in school business management. So I just wanted to congratulate you.
And the national, I'm also certified as a school finance official, so that's a national certification.
Congratulations.
So that's recertification after, I passed that exam a couple of years ago, and then that's a cert on that. So I just did both of those, got them updated.
Congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go on to a field trip request from Mr. Schwainer. It was attached. Ben, just give us a little quick summary here. They're going to Allentown, Pennsylvania for what?
No, New York City.
New York City, yeah.
New York City.
Oh, New York City?
Yeah.
Allentown, Pennsylvania.
There's one in Allentown too. So they're all over the place. No, they're,
Oh,
It says Allentown, Pennsylvania.
yeah, that's where one of them is, but there's Da Vinci Science Centers all over the place.
Yeah. So it's a anatomy and physiology class. It's about 18 students. He's in the preliminary stages, so he's not certain of interest level of class. I know they are aware of the program, they're interested, but as far as like, does it coincide with a sports event or something where a student can't make it? But otherwise, I think the interest is really high. It's a body exhibit, so it's fits with his program really well. The anatomy and physiology is in year 2 of kind of making it come back at the high school. It's grown it from, I want to say, 6 or 7 students last year to nearly 20 students this year. Last year, several of those students went into some sort of medical field afterwards. And I believe there's a lot of students now that are in this program that are also interested in that route. So if you know anything about the bodies exhibit, it's not for the faint of heart, but it gives you a really interesting, dynamic look at the human body in all different forms. I would encourage you to check out the website. But it's a long trip. I want to say it's a 300 and something mile round trip. Their itinerary is to leave at 6 a.m. and probably return around 9 p.m. They would spend about 2 to 3 hours in the museum. They do lunch together. And it's mostly, I think it's all juniors and seniors actually in the class. So transportation, they'll either provide their own transportation to and from school, or they've already discussed contacting parents to be able to drop them off in the morning and pick them up. The museum itself is $20 per student. I guess the conversation with Mr. Schreiner's students is that they were willing to do $20 themselves to get in. I don't believe it's created an issue, but if it does, it's definitely, the cost is so low, it's something we could take care of as well.
So is this permission to go or permission to pay for the bus?
This is just the steps, being that it's in April and it's over 100 miles, it's just the steps to get approved to the board first.
Okay.
I do have one question about that. It says there's one adult supervisor.
You.
One chaperone.
No, there's one chaperone. And if they have 19 people, that doesn't seem enough.
So it is one class that he's going with. This isn't a combined class. This is just one class that he oversees on a daily basis. Granted, it's you're stepping out, but it's the museum itself is self-contained. So they're not wandering around on their own.
It's a good concern. Like, let's say he feels unwell and spends
Yeah,
a lot of
doesn't-
time in the bathroom or something. Who's going to be watching the rest of the
Right, it's.
I just don't think you should ever go anywhere without 2 adults.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I mean, what if something happened on the bus? And
That
he
was my
late for
concern
something
as
and
being
then
a nurse
there's No
myself,
other adult
is
there. or
thinking
something.
that.
I don't know.
I think we could certainly have another adult go.
Absolutely.
That would be the recommendation in order to approve, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Casey, you didn't know
That would really pull me away from
Allentown.
a lot of work that I do.
I don't know if he's stand above.
All right, so you need action on this, Brooke, to approve
Yeah.
the request?
Yes, please.
Need a helicopter.
Have we already made the motion?
We have not.
Okay, I'll wait till we
You
get
can
to
make the
this.
motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion to accept the request.
Second.
I do like field trips.
And now there's questions and discussions.
Yeah, I'd like us to pay for it. I don't know why we can't. I don't know why students need to pay. I think that's just a barrier. I think all students like to say they can pay because that feels good, but I think that's a barrier to not pay. And I was looking on their site, there's a place when you click tickets and then click Allentown, it has a special thing for groups, school groups. So there might be a way to get a voucher for lunch or get a reduced price ticket for number of students. So there might be some areas to kind of look at that and decide whether, because they probably have a restaurant either on or nearby a museum. They usually do. So maybe we could say, so I would suggest that we pay for it.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, what's the policy regarding, again, back to my initial question, do we need to approve the funding or the permission to go? What's the policy, Brooke? Do you know? I mean,
Permission to go.
permission to go.
Permission to go, but typically, if it's a field trip that's part of our curriculum, we need to pay for it ourselves. Like, not the students shouldn't be paying for that.
So it's almost understood the financial component.
Correct.
Okay. So I don't think we need to amend a motion.
It just says it on there. So I just want to make sure that that goes away.
And then another adult goes as well.
Right.
Right.
And then also, it's on the request, it does say that their destination is Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So that should be changed if it's New York City.
No, it is Allentown.
No, it is Allentown.
It is Allentown.
It is Allentown.
All right, so motion second. Any other questions or discussion? And we've made our points clear about the funding and then the second adults.
I got a question. Is this the only class that's educationally wise able to do it? There's none other classes taught? What is the class they're in?
Oh, this
Anatomy and
So
physiology.
it's only one class, right? That's
Yeah.
teaching that.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's other kids in another class that feel left out if they wouldn't, not just because they're not with him.
Now, I assume that this is similar to the Body Human that toured the country like 15 years ago? This
I think so. I think that was the one that was actually in Burlington for a period of time.
Yeah.
So I think if it's not the same, it's similar or a piece of that. I think they rent out sections of their museum to other areas.
They have Animal Inside It Out too there, Glenn, in case you want to go see.
I think I've seen a few of those.
All right, so if nothing further, all those in favor of approving the request for the field trip, please say aye.
Aye.
And is there anyone opposed? All right, sounds like fun. All right, next we're moving on to other business. Does anyone have any other business? Brooke, is there any other business?
No, I just wanted to thank the board members whose board meeting, this is their last board meeting, right?
And who's that? That's Rick and Tanya?
Yep.
Anyone else am I missing? All right, well, Rick, thank you very much for your service.
Yes.
Thank you for putting up with all that.
Yeah.
And Tanya as well, thank you, Tanya, for your service.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay. So, executive session. Is it just your contract, Brooke, or there are other items that we need to discuss in executive session?
Just my contract, unless you'd like any other updates.
We just take a motion to that effect, agenda building. Our next meeting will be to reorganize. That'll be the second Monday in March after the school budget vote, right?
Yeah, March 13th.
Okay. Okay. Nothing further then, I would take a motion to go into executive session for personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.